Welcome to the Tow Club Industry Podcast. I'm Art. Thanks for tuning in. Today, I have some interesting news to discuss. I hope you guys are paying attention here because some of the news articles that are going to be discussed today have a fair amount of relevance in our industry, and we can certainly all learn some lessons from some of the issues that are described in some of these articles. First one being, this is in our backyard. This is San Francisco, California, and I don't have words to describe this one. There is video on this. I'm oftentimes skeptical and oftentimes somewhat willing, and in most cases, to defend a tow truck services conduct. But this is indefensible. There's a video depicting a local company. I'm not going to say their name. Um, Trying to tow a vehicle that's being driven. I've never seen anything like this in my life. This is a tremendous black eye for the industry. And I'd like to urge these people to get out of the industry if they can't, control this kind of conduct, because this is very disturbing. This company has, on a few other occasions, made the news, which is every tower's worst nightmare. Some of that news, if my memory serves me correctly, was related to private property impounding, which we all know can bring news articles. So take a look at the link in the video description. Take a look at the video if you haven't already. I know that this video has made its rounds and was trending for a brief period of time. So I'd like to just, caution everybody out there, people are watching. This was just a bystander that decided to videotape this incident. Thankfully for the victims, because that type of conduct just has no place in the industry. So take a look at that. Hit the comments. I'd like to hear what you all have to say about this. And I just hope that we never see anything like this again, because this is very disturbing. I do want to remind everybody too that in the video description, there will be plenty of links apart from this one, descriptive of some of the items for discussion today. And please take a look. It's not only relevant to the industry, but it's good reading, and you could learn a thing or two, unfortunately, at the expense of another tower in most of these instances. But the next story takes us to Pennsylvania, and this is in Wilkes-Barre. A towing company, a notable towing company out in Pennsylvania, was unfortunately the victim of a general manager who defrauded the company several $100,000, I believe close to $500,000, maybe a little more. And I know that you guys are probably shaking your head wondering how this happens. My understanding is that this is a sizable towing outfit. So I obviously don't know what type of revenue they produce. I don't know how $500,000 stacks up to their balance sheet and their profit and loss. So I don't know how easy or difficult it would be in the case of this company to defraud them to this extent. But this is troubling news. And, I'll share my own experiences as a tower. Um, it's not that difficult to be a victim of this type of activity from an employee. But one thing that has helped me personally, and I encourage towers to look into this, is, getting software that helps you document the financial transactions. It helps you take loss prevention measures, create reports. And of course, I'm going to offer up our own product here because that's what has been able to help me manage and mitigate these types of instances. So, take a look at this story. Again, let me know what you think. I'm sure towers in that part of Pennsylvania, I believe it's Wilkes-Barre, I'm sure that they're going to have to, say something about this. And again, it's just not something that you want to read. And I hope that the person who is convicted of this is punished to the extent of the law, because it's just really tough on small businesses when things like this happen. And I do want to remind everybody that, when you have employees, this is one of the measures that you have to take, is putting in loss prevention measures. The more you grow, the more that towers will find a need to have these measures in their operations. Moving on to Washington, D.C. I was very interested reading this article because here in the San Francisco Bay Area, we have several issues with street parking that doesn't get enforced. And these issues are beginning to really impact the residents that follow the rules. And that is, DC has said, hey, we're getting serious about towing vehicles with outstanding tickets, with expired registration, and so on. And this is something that I think the residents of DC, the businesses, etc., are going to be welcoming, because it's going to, in theory, free up some parking for those that do follow the rules, do pay their tolls, do pay their parking citations. And I think if you look around the country and you see other sort of metro areas implementing similar processes, deciding to more strictly enforce municipal parking, one of the themes of this is there's oftentimes sort of activists that say, hey, this is impactful to people towing their vehicles. It's, you're taking people's property. And obviously, some of these arguments have merit. In this case, I think DC probably got it right, because if you read the article carefully, there is a lot of grace period, and many tickets are allowed prior to the vehicles getting towed. But clearly, they've been overrun to the extent where now they're starting to get serious. And I'm not a resident, obviously, of Washington, D.C., but I get the impression that the residents are going to welcome this. Parking is finite. There needs to be some measure of enforcement to ensure that people have available parking. So glad to see that. Again, for those of you listening, let me know what you think about this. Let me know if your town or city or county has something similar in place, and let us know how it's working out. So the city of Venice Beach is adopting a no tolerance policy on recreational vehicles and street side camping, which is essentially, hey, there's homeless people living in RVs, parking on city streets, taking up all the parking. And the residents have complained to some extent for years. If you read this article, it outlines some details about how they actually plan to enforce this. So I'm curious to see how this is going to work out. I am going to be watching this closely. And I'd love for those listening and watching, particularly in California, because this is, I hate to bag on my own state here, but this is a common issue in California. We have really good weather, and the homelessness issue is just more visible than it is in other states. And, with the cost of real estate in California, obviously, the residents are taking these issues to their elected officials and demanding quality of life improvements. And this is something that's very controversial in California. California tends to be, or have, I should say, a great deal of tolerance in the past, I would add, for this type of activity. But it seems like the pendulum is swinging on this particular issue. And we are finding that many of the larger cities, and if it may be fair to also add that many of the expensive cities you are starting to see this quality of life issue get a little bit more attention from elected officials. So I am going to be watching this closely again. And again, for those of you in California or even Florida, from what I've been reading, please let us know what type of policies your cities and or county or town have, and let us know how they're working, because this is something that to the towing industry deserves a very close eye. Because in the case of this Venice Beach City Council no tolerance policy in particular, I'd like to know what the results of their relationship with the towing industry is going to be. As you all know, when you tow an abandoned RV for a municipality or a county, um, it's not going to get claimed. So the question becomes is, how do you get compensated for towing these junk RVs? We are, as you all know, I'm a tower, and my tow yard, there's a considerable amount of space taken up by towing these RVs, and it really taxes our available space. And with the cost of real estate in California, particularly in our area, this is going to be something that I think is going to be discussed a lot more between the government officials and the towing industry. So this will be interesting to see how effective this is. I'm hoping that in this instance, in Venice Beach, and for any subsequent instance, and in the absence of anything current that satisfies what I'm discussing here, but I'm hoping that the towers that are requested or asked to clean these RVs up are properly compensated. As you all know, RV towing comes with, these things have bathrooms in them. There's environmental concerns. A lot of them have to be destroyed, dismantled, and hauled away. It gets very expensive. So again, I'm hopeful for a resolution that is fair to towers as it relates to these type of activities. Final topic of discussion. And I'm only, this is big news, I believe, for the transportation industry. It may not be as of now. And I know some of you guys are rolling your eyes here, particularly those that know me and know my position on the electrification of transport as it relates to the commercial truck industry. But Tesla semi news here. Pepsi is taking more deliveries. To those of you that know, and to those of you that don't know, I should say, Tesla sort of was born in our backyard here, and we have had a pretty close eye on all of their trials and tribulations over the years. And now, they're annualized about 2 million vehicles a year. And now they've decided, to enter the Class 8 truck industry. For those of you that don't know, they already have 5 or 6 dozen sort of, we'll call them beta testers that Pepsi and Frito-Lay are using currently. And all the reports are, despite some images circulated online of like, hey, these gotcha images circulated like they broke down and they needed to be towed. But the early reports from Frito-Lay and Pepsi are very positive. These tractors currently are sort of going to be pointed at the regional LTL, in other words, less than an entire load. They're probably running between 45 and 65,000 pounds gross. And from what I've been reading and from what some of the reports are coming from the users, these semis, as of now, are very effectively doing regional transport for Frito-Lay, and Pepsi. And we're talking 240 to 350 miles a shift. Again, quite effectively. And there are other positive reports reported by the media coming out about their performance on ice. And so I do want to, again, remind our industry, do not dismiss this truck. This is coming. Whether or not you choose to participate or own one of these trucks for your use, I urge you to learn about how they are operating. I know many towers who tow for regional carriers, companies like Pepsi, Frito-Lay, package delivery fleets and warehouses and distribution hubs. You are going to start seeing these trucks. I suggest that you learn how they work, you learn how they should be transported, and I'm hoping soon you will start seeing content distributed that will train towers on how these tractors should be transported and or towed, recovered perhaps. But again, Pepsi is taking delivery of more. And this is something that's very, very, I believe, going to be impactful, particularly in the trucking industry. I still think that towers, and I'm sure most of you would agree, there's going to be some time before we implement tow trucks in this class, class 8, given the fact that the charging network at its current state will not really make these trucks effective for long haul transport. We're probably some time away from that. But for regional distribution, they are already proving that they are quite effective. So I am going to be keeping tabs on this. I'm going to be coming with reports as this information becomes available. And just so everybody knows, it seems like PACCAR, Freightliner, and a host of Class 8 electric truck startups are also vying to be competitors to Tesla in this space. So pay close attention to it, learn how these things operate so that we don't become the butt end of a joke, not knowing how to transport one or tow one. And I would like to add too, because part of the conversation here is going to be skepticism as it relates to cost. All of the reports that I'm reading suggest that this Class 8 tractor is in the $200,000 neighborhood. So as it stands, 10 or 15% higher than a diesel counterpart. And obviously that's going to be something that may, some companies may choose to think twice about. And I think that would be a mistake, given that the operating cost per mile is being reported to be as low as 30 cents for this tractor. And from what I've been reading on Tesla's website, there's going to be a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. So I'm hoping, again, I'm rooting for it. Tesla is a company that I root for, given their origins in our backyard here. And for those of you in Texas, I know that you are happy that they have built a plant in Austin and they are employing, I don't know, 12 to 15,000 people right now in the Austin, greater Austin area. So it's an American company. Let's root for them. Let's not create false narratives around this truck. I believe that in time, even the skeptics are going to see that this truck, I should say, is going to have a place in the industry. This was posed by a social media user on a very popular thread concerning the Tesla Semi. And this just happened to be a tower that I know. And the question that he had was, he was sort of questioning the reliability of the truck. And the question beyond he asked, well, how are they going to be towed and transported? And there was a lot of sub-comments, and the sub-comments were interesting in nature. And the narrative that was being discussed was, hey, this thing is going to break down a lot, and it's going to be a problem. It may burn, etc. So I would like to just kind of answer a few things given my experience with electric vehicles. the whole catching fire thing, I think there's some anecdotes there that give some merit to that discussion. But we've discussed that ad nauseum on this channel and with multiple guests. But I would like to address the reliability factor. As many of you know, on average, electric vehicles have a lesser chance of breaking down. Teslas in particular have a very robust advanced driver assistance system. So it is fair to say that there's a good chance that you will not be towing a lot of these that were involved in accidents. I believe that, just like internal combustion engine commercial vehicles, I believe that some of the towing obviously will be, either run out of charge or a mechanical and or electrical issue that immobilizes the vehicle. But it is fair to say that there is a good chance that there will be less opportunities to tow these vehicles. And if you're a fleet manager, you're probably enjoying that probability. These operators that have hundreds and or thousands of Class 8 vehicles, they're no dummies. These bean counters, they sharpen their pencils. And when you talk about the huge reduction in per mile operating cost and a 1 million mile warranty, which is more robust than I think any diesel counterpart in that class of truck, maybe by a factor of 2 or 3x. This thing is to be reckoned with, and it should not be dismissed. So please keep that in mind. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and I do want to remind everybody to really check out the articles in the video description. I think you're going to find some of the information very useful. And again, I want to remind you, if you aren't willing to know, don't tow.